Hello there, and welcome to Bristol Wellbeing College's fourth in our online series of Writing for Wellbeing. In this session, we'll combine elements from the three previous sessions, which were on writing with senses, memory, and emotions. And we're looking at this session to help us create stories on the theme of our shared experience of the lockdown period, together in isolation. Before we begin, press pause and make sure you have yourself a pen and paper. You may also need a stopwatch or a timer. This might be your phone, for example. First, we'll look at the nature of stories. We tend to think of stories as difficult to conjure unless we're naturally gifted storytellers. The truth is, as humans, we are all naturally gifted storytellers. And in fact, our ability to tell stories is pretty integral to our survival. For example, if on a hot day you would really like to swim, there is a beautiful wide river. What stops you from jumping straight into the water? Well, before you know it, you've told yourself a story about getting into the river, the cold temperature causing you to gasp, then the current pulling you in, then you're grasping for overhanging branches while being swept away towards the next waterfall. Can you think of other instances in which we tell ourselves stories like this? Note that they might not all be survival situations. Pause the video and have a think before I show you the ones that I came up with. Here are some of the ones that I did, and we might not always be aware of these. Before crossing the road, we make up stories to ourselves before going on a long journey, or when we're making a first impression of someone. We often tell ourselves stories when we want something and imagine how we will get it. We also make up stories when falling in love with someone or feeling jealous and imagining all the things that that person is doing. As you can see, some of these situations do require a story around them in order for us to be able to gauge how safe they are. However, others are based more on our sense of desire and anticipation. And these are the stories that motivate our actions. The previous slide demonstrates how easy it really is for us to create stories. The problem is that most of the time we get lost in our own stories and are not even aware we've created them in the first place. It feels different when we want to deliberately create a story. This is why we're going to employ some techniques and ideas from the previous videos to help us avoid getting lost in our stories and keep sight of what we want from them. We will warm up around the theme of senses. In the first video, we explored writing inspired by our immediate senses: vision, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Now, I'm going to read out a sense and a situation. After each one, take a moment to imagine yourself in that situation and write down a description according to that particular sense. Give yourself no more than 5 minutes for each one. On the next slide is my example. So the sense I'm using is touch, and the situation I'm in is a crowded platform on a hot day. And here's what I came up with. The cement ground under my feet makes them ache. The brush of someone's shoulder as they scuttle past. The sun in my eyes makes them ache too. I squint. The pressure of my bag strap on my shoulder, sharp and dull at the same time. Now your turn. Remember, you can pause the video between each. So, the first sense and situation is vision, and you're inside an elevator. Your next sense that you're using is smell, and the situation you're in is on a pebble beach. Now you're using your hearing, sound, and you're inside a library. A trickier one, taste, and you're sitting around a campfire. Finally, using your sense of touch, inside a restaurant. Having done the previous exercise, can you see how easily you have created the basis of a few stories? The trick to creating any story is to keep your eyes and ears and all the other sensory organs open, wherever the story is taking you. Of course, this in itself leads to another issue with storytelling: the gap between our experience and the words that we use to describe it. Words are useful vehicles for our expression, but they can be unreliable. Once we let go of our words, they cease to belong to us. All the meaning, experience, understanding, and knowledge that we have attached to those words take on a different meaning when they are handed to someone else, according to their own experience, understanding, and knowledge. To demonstrate this, let's try an exercise. I'm going to give you a very straightforward scene that we are both likely to have encountered. Then we are both going to write our account of that scene. So, the scene is a passing car. Now, I want you to immerse yourself in the moment of this scene, using all your senses and observing what you see and feel. Write in as much detail as you can, and give yourself no more than 10 minutes to write your account of this scene. Pause the video while you do this. So, here is the account I wrote of a passing car. The car is a shiny, metallic pale blue. Paintwork glints as the car noses forward. It makes a low purring noise in second gear. Wheels rotate in tandem, rolling over tarmac. The windows are closed and the reflection of a terraced street rolls across the glass. Can't see the driver inside, but they are changing gear. A hiccup, and the purr raises to a rumble. It speeds away, rear window water streaked by the arc of the wipers. So, how different are our accounts of this one very simple scene? The difference between them highlights just how a few simple words can take on different meanings from one individual to another, and how the expanse of ideas and pictures stem from these variations in meaning. Looking back over both our accounts of a passing car, we can see that we will have chosen different elements of information to recount. Thinking about all the elements involved in this simple act of a passing car, the person inside, where it happened, the way it moved, how it sounded, the paintwork and markings, and much more. What have we captured of the scene, and what have we filtered out? Our senses and memory filter some information for us, but still, we carry a lot, even on something as brief as a passing car, and our description of the moment could become endless. Imagine then how much information we hold about more complex things like human encounters and our feelings around them. Well, it is this sense of information overload that can make us feel too overwhelmed to even start writing in the first place, even if we want to. So, to sum up, here are some key points to helping you tell a story. First, locate yourself. Where will our story take place in time and space? Then, identify. What are the perceptions and feelings that we want to express? Then focus. Hone in on the information we feel will help the reader best envision and connect with our story. Time then to experiment. This is fun. Play around with the words that we use, make and embrace changes, and accept that not everyone will read them in the same way that we do. Finally, and most importantly, let go. Sharing our story means that we have to do this. Once it is with others, it will take on its own life and we no longer have influence over how it is received. So, getting started. Let's try to put some of this into practice, building on what we already have. So, choose one of your responses from the sense and situation activity. This will be our location, where we are in time and space. Now, focus on this time and place, whether it is real or imagined. It is likely to be a mixture of both. And then identify the feelings and emotions within it. Remember, from our writing with emotion, that we are trying to identify that third level emotion. On the slide, I will show you my own example. So I went with the sense of touch and the situation of a crowded platform on a hot day. And I closed my eyes and I really focused on being there. Here's a reminder of what I wrote before. And when I thought about it, here are the emotions and feelings I identified within that scene. The first dominant feeling or emotion was annoyance. Then, digging a little deeper, I found an element of exhaustion. And when I really focused, my third level emotion in that was an inner rebelliousness or a willfulness. So now your turn. Give yourself as much time as you need to do this. If you're unable to identify a third level emotion, just try digging deeper to a second and aim for one or two. Finding focus. Well, now we have a location and a feeling and a sense of emotion. We will all have a lot of information in our heads just around these two concepts. And this is where it can start to feel overwhelming if we want to express all of it and start writing. So let's try and filter some of that information for the page. To do this, we will use the show, not tell technique that we saw in writing with emotion. So remember, this is where we avoid telling the reader what the emotional feeling is, and instead show them by using imagery. This is your opportunity to really focus on breathing life into the areas of your story that most matter to you. So, pause this video and envision how you will show in your scene the emotions and feelings you wrote down in the last exercise. If you want, you can consider body language, dialogue, and metaphors or similes. Again, take as long as you need for this exercise. And on the following page, I will show you my own example. So, remembering that the emotions that I found were annoyance, exhaustion, and willfulness. Here's what I wrote. The air here is sticky. It's sticking to my clothes, and my clothes are sticking to me. My whole body wants to slump somewhere, preferably on a beach or my bed. The departures board announces further delay, and meanwhile people continue to pour onto the platform. A shoulder brushes mine as someone strides past, and though I know they don't mean aggression, something in my stomach wants to rise up and scream at them. Instead, I push it down where I still feel it bubbling. If I stand here in this heat much longer, it will start to boil, and I will no longer be able to contain it. It will make me steam like a kettle, then screech like one. I will demand to be taken off the cooker, taken out of here, and like steam, I will drift away to wherever the wind blows me. Now your turn. How'd you get on? Don't worry if you found this challenging. It's supposed to be. And if it didn't come naturally, that's okay. The idea is not to take it too seriously. Just play around with it, change a word here and there, delete or add a sentence. So far you should now have a scene described through one physical sense and a perception of that scene, seen through the feelings and emotions you have just painted a picture of. We're going to do some exercises now for experimenting around with this scene. You don't have to do these now, you can just do them at home on your own. So over the next days, just play around. Here are some ideas that you could try. You can choose a sentence from your pieces that you think would best make the line to the beginning of a story. And then you can take this as a prompt and set yourself a 10-minute timer and then begin writing a totally new and unrelated story. Another suggestion is to tell your story from a different angle. Change all the pronouns from first person I to the third person she, he, they, or to make it even more strange, second person you. How does it feel now? You could also try changing the tense from past to present or even future, and then see how it feels. Finally, time to let go of your words. Please do share them. See if you can pick one sentence from each section of today's writing that you would like to share. We will use these in the live sessions. Consider ones which best captures a moment in time or best encompasses the mood of your piece. Then give your words a life of their own. Feel free to share some of your writing from these activities, or you can just bring them to the session as a springboard. To share them, take a photo of your page, making sure the writing is clearly visible, and please send it to bristol.wellbeing.college@second-step.co.uk. We're always on the lookout for blog material. Before we go, here's just some food for thought. How might the process outlined here today, designed to get you confident in story writing and sharing, apply to other areas in your life? And how can story sharing bring us together in a time of physical isolation? We hope you found the session useful today and that it has helped unearth the natural storyteller in you. Hopefully, it has also prepared you to come to the live session feeling ready to come together and share a story or two. We look forward to seeing you there. Take care.